Hello, it's me again. Okay, today I'm going to try to make it even shorter. Okay, Matthew 6:19 NIV. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. One more time. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. Matthew 6:19. Okay, I wanted to make sure that you are up to speed so far for the week. Okay, so our first lesson on stewardship was about being good stewards of the earth God has given us. We are not owners of it. Page 109. I hope you completed that. Now yesterday we were on page 110, and that was stewardship also, and it was talking about how we should be good stewards of our time. And now today we are on page 111, and we are talking about how we should be good stewards of our talents and our gifts that God has given us. So let's talk about that for just a minute, okay? I'm going to read a little bit right now for just a second. God has also provided Christians with a variety of gifts. These are spiritual gifts. A spiritual gift is a divine ability that God gives Christians to help build up the church. Spiritual gifts are different from natural talents and skills, but both spiritual gifts and natural abilities should be used by believers to glorify God. Okay? Do you remember when Moses was going to lead the Israelites? He didn't feel like he had the ability to speak to them the way that he should. And God provided him with Aaron, didn't he? Now, I've heard people say, I feel God leading me to do this. And whatever God leads you to do, if it is truly God, He is going to give you what you need. Now, I'm a Lauren Daigle fan, and I love to sing, and I sing a lot at home. Now, if I wanted to, let's see how to put this. If I wanted my spiritual gift to be what I wanted it to be, it would probably be that I could sing really, really good. Well, let's just say that I didn't really pray about it, and I just wanted to sing in front of the church. So I go to the church, and I tell my worship leader, I'm like, I really want to sing. I want to be on the praise band. And he's probably be thinking to himself, how am I going to let her know that she just can't be on the praise band? So I'm just saying that to say that what we may want to do may not be what God has gifted us to do. And there are talents that we have, like I was athletic growing up. As far as a spiritual gift, I don't know. I guess it would be teaching. That's where I find myself at church. It's like teaching. I don't know. I think I'm probably another practical skill that I have is like organizing. So when I did the preschool ministry at our church years ago, I would keep things organized. I felt like I was pretty good at communicating. I could communicate with people. Even if I wasn't the very best teacher, I felt like I could study and learn the material. And I felt like I was committed. Like I said, I wouldn't be the first one there, but I was committed to be there if I told them I would be there. So you see how you have certain little things that are necessary for you to be what God has called you to be. So let's talk about that just a minute. I want to ask you, what do you think God has gifted you to do? I want you to think about it for a minute. And I've heard my dad say before, you have your gifts and your talents, but there's a spiritual gift that God gives you when you ask Him to be your Savior. And I know a lot of you have asked Jesus to be your Savior this year or in the last couple years. And I want to encourage you to pray, asking God, what is my spiritual gift? And also looking, what are your talents? What are your gifts? Okay? Everything that we do doesn't have to be big and grand. If you're a patient person, like when you get old enough, if you're a patient person, you're good with kids, and you're committed, you can serve in your preschool ministry. Just things like that. Look for ways, how can I serve? How is God leading me? Maybe they do a little sports camp in the summer. Maybe you're good at sports. Maybe they do an arts camp at your church, or a little cooking class or something, and maybe that's what you're good at. But I want to read something for you, and I want to point out one more thing before I close, okay? How might you glorify God if you're good in math? Okay, think about that. How can you glorify God if you're good in math? Okay, my first thought, answer to that question was, well, you could tutor somebody who needed help, right? You could be an accountant for a Christian organization, or you might be an accountant for Christian organizations, maybe not just one. Let me give you an example of a guy who was good in math that attended our church, and this was in, I guess this would have been around 1997. It's really interesting to see how God perfectly orchestrated this. Our church had already at that time gone from a little bitty church, and we had built a church that would hold about 300 people. And we were having 2 services, and we were outgrowing our church. And we really prayed and prayed about the facility we were in and how we could expand. And every time we tried, the door would be closed. Well, around that time, a lot of textiles, industries, jobs, like people that made stuff like towels and sheets and things like that. That was an industry in Eden, North Carolina called Fieldcrest Cannon. Well, there happened to be an accountant that worked for Fieldcrest who went to our church, and they were leaving and moving their businesses, and one of the places was in Kannapolis, and our accountant was actually going to be moving to Kannapolis as well with his family. Well, he knew that we needed to expand, and he knew that his company needed to get rid of this large office building that they had. And it ended up being in the coolest location, and it was way more expensive than our church could afford. And it really wasn't designed to be a church. Well, guess what? We also had an architect that went to our church, and he started kind of drawing some plans on the church, like, if we could make this work financially, how could we make it work, as a church? So he came up with a plan, and they actually brought in I guess it would be like excavators. They came in and dug down, and so they made our church kind of like a movie theater type, so it would seat more people. And then the accountant ended up figuring out that if his company wrote off some of what they were going to charge for our building, and they would get that money off on their taxes, then they could come down on the price and we could afford the building. So I know that's a lot of information for you guys being in 4th grade. But basically, God provided an accountant, God provided an architect, and those 2 people were able to change God's plan for our church. It was really, really exciting to see that happen. So in 2000, I can remember, us praying around the church for our new church that was being built and that we were about to move into. And we're still there now, and it's 2020, so that was 20 years ago. So just realize that God can use you in lots of capacities. Always be willing to give Him your time, your talents, your ability, and to be a good steward. Have a good day. Bye-bye.